Welcome to episode 11. Or wait, are we on 12? Actually, I can't count. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. I am so sorry about that. I even counted that earlier. Welcome to episode 12 of the 200 movie challenge. Where if you don't know what's going on, me and Soto are trying to watch 200 combined movies that we have not seen yet. Soto, this
We
past
sure are.
and we're doing well. We are chugging right along.
Oh, yeah, quarter two. Here we go.
Quarter
Start of the
two, we're
quarter
almost
two.
there. I feel like 12, that's the end of quarter one. Maybe
Mhm.
technically 13 because 13 weeks, but whatever. I think at the end of this though, we will be a fourth way done our movies, but we're gonna get to that in a moment. But so yeah, this past, what was it, Tuesday was April Fool's, and I kind of said, wouldn't it be funny if me and you chose each other's movies, just like one movie as a joke?
Mhm.
Just like, all
Mhm.
right, you have to watch this, no questions asked, which you've actually suggested a couple movies to me before, but like under 2 hours, but it also has to be something you've seen. Just because you
Mhm.
that way I would just not give you like the worst movie ever. It's like something I watched that I wanted you to see, and vice versa. So we had a little fun with that, and we're gonna start with the movie that you chose for me.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about this.
So I kind of have to ask. So yes, you chose for me the 2009 movie Black Dynamite.
Black
Black
Dynamite.
Dynamite. Before I get into my review, Soto, because I don't know
Yeah.
if you're gonna like my review or not. Why'd you choose this movie
Uh,
for me? I'm just curious. Why?
Well, because what I had originally wanted to send you was not available for free, and you haven't seen this movie. When it becomes for free, I will make you watch it.
What movie
But
is
the
that? Can I
movie that
ask?
you can, yeah, the movie is called. It's Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon.
Okay.
With Bruce Leroy and Shonuff, and it's like, I'm telling you, it's an '80s awesome cheese movie. It's actually kind of a little bit on the rotten taste side of things because
Ooh.
it's not rated well, but it's to me, it's a fucking classic. But that was my first thing that I was gonna send you. But as far as why I sent you Black Dynamite, we've talked a lot about this kind of a movie. In other podcasts we've done and Rotten Taste and specifically Robin Hood Men in Tights is that they don't make silly movies anymore that are just dumb. Where they have these kind of just like obvious jokes and things like that are not really to be taken seriously. And um, I had remembered that Black Dynamite was one of those movies, and Black Dynamite is still one that I go back to, and I see memes about it and everything, and it makes me laugh. And so, um, I know it's not the kind of movie you like. I know Jill is big into fucking Kung Pao, which I think is one of the dumbest fucking movies I've
Oh,
ever
I agree.
seen.
I
Um,
100% agree on
but
that.
because I get what Kung Pao is doing, but it's not funny to me. At all. Like I guess there are some redeeming parts of Kung Pao, but I just feel like it just didn't land for me. And
I
and
only laughed
honestly,
once at that movie, and I can remember the part. It was in the beginning, but after that, I was like,
like
and
I
I got
get
what he was
it.
trying to
Like
do. But anyhow,
I get it, but it was like kind of like a little bit over the top for me. And you may feel that way about Black Dynamite, but to go back to our overall kind of thing that we've been talking about for a long time, they don't make movies that are just you just put on and they're dumb and you laugh and it is what it is. And and I feel that Black Dynamite was kind of like that movie. And when I saw that it was free and I saw that it was leaving soon, um I had to jump on it, and I saw that you did not have it on your watch list on Letterbox, so
yeah, this is
um
true.
I had to send it your way, man.
Well, you have sent a couple movies my way, which I didn't have to watch, but I did. But yeah, so I did not know much about this movie going into it. So I was like, all right, I know nothing. I like to be surprised. It was under 2 hours. Actually, I think it was under an hour and a half. I think this is a short one, which thank you. Um, and yeah, at first
Is it really that short?
I think so. I could be wrong. I just felt like it was shorter. It wasn't hit 2 hours. I could have sworn it was 90. Anyhow, that doesn't matter. Then I saw that it was, at first I thought it was based on an anime. Then I realized the anime series came out after this. Because that was,
Oh, there's an anime series?
there is. I think it came out 2012, 2013 with a lot of these people doing the same voices. I think there's like 2 or 3 seasons. And so obviously I looked into it a little bit. Um, and I thought that was why you chose this for me because it was based on an anime series. And I'm like, oh, but it came out after the movie. So yes, this is a parody movie. In a weird way, it's like a parodies blaxploitation films while being
Yes.
one. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, it starts off with a weird malt liquor ad, and I'm like, and then lots of tits. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. Because I was like, I wasn't surprised, that surprised me. But yes, it was the last day in Tubi. So I'm trying to get into it, Soto. And at first, I'm like, okay, the kung fu was a little out there because obviously that's the type of film. Michael J. White, I've loved him in a few things he's done. So I was hopeful. It started for some reason. So I'll be honest with you, it started off slow for me, and it's weird to say because there was some good parts. Like the first part, I laughed out loud at was one guy smacked the other guy, and it was a good real smack. And he looked at him like, "You son of," and then they cut to like a stunt double taking the slap, and I'm like, that shit. I was like, oh, they broke the fourth wall. I like this. But yeah, there's just a lot of other things. It just, I don't want to say dragged. It just, for me, didn't hit the mark. And I know comedy is subjective. I will say the last half an hour, I felt like things picked up for me. Like, I think I enjoyed the last third of this film a lot more than the rest of the film. But there was moments, like, I'm not going to say this is a bad movie. Don't get me wrong. It's just not my style. Like the car going off the cliff and it explodes before it hits anything. I was like, okay.
Which is so classic.
And it's also got the dude from Dumb and Dumber in it, and I had to laugh at that. It had an interesting cast. Yeah, again, I don't want to get into the plot of this because it's pretty absurd. And I don't know if I can even explain it all properly, but his brother gets killed.
Black Dynamite. I sell drugs in the community.
Yes, that's it. Is his name actually Black Dynamite? Like, I'm like, does he have a real name? Because everyone's just like, Black Dynamite, Black Dynamite. Oh my God. Then there's a scene. Okay, so I think this is more towards the end, and I'm looking at my notes, and I'm just again, I think this had scenes I enjoyed, and like they're coming after the orphanage, and Black Dynamite just flipping his shit. Not the orphans, and he's throwing kids out the window. He's like, orphans don't have families. Like, just random comments like that are so absurd, so over the top. That's kind of and I think when I watch like the Happy Time Murders, the puppet one, when they go way over the top and kind of, I'm like, I'm into it. But there's a lot of things that didn't hit on this. But yes, I did laugh at parts, but I will admit it took until the final third for it to get going where I'm like, I think I was laughing a bit more. Right. Definitely, like I said, it's definitely not my style. The whole idea that they're using the malt anaconda liquor to basically, go against the African Americans and just make him have a small D. And I'm keeping this kind of PG. I think it was hilarious. I'm like, and they're like, should we shoot him? Like, yes, let's put him out of his misery. So yes, there's very weird multiple plot points in this, and that's what I'm saying. I don't know if you can hit it all. It's one of those movies where I'm going to remember certain scenes more than the movie itself. Mm-hmm. And again, that's not saying it's bad or it's good, but I will say it was, kind of like, I don't want to compare it to Kung Pao because I know you brought it up, but it's just, it didn't hit the mark. There were certain things that hit the mark, but overall it didn't. For me, and again, I get that this is some people's comedies. Comedy is very subjective to people, and I get that. And I tried, 100%. And obviously, like I said, this isn't like the worst thing I saw. But you also mentioned The Nice Guys, and I laughed at that. But I think that was just Ryan Gosling, just being.
That was a good.
It was a good movie as well. They, it had the characters, but there was that kind of comedy and that flow. And Russell Crowe was great. I know we talked about that, but this, I don't know. Like I said, it just wasn't hitting its mark in the beginning. I was a little bit worried. I'm like, God, when is, I was laughing at parts, but I'm like, is this going to get better? And it did. Like I said, the last third, I think just things were picking up when they were trying to solve the crime. And so, yeah, I mean, I will laugh. I know this, sounds like it's more one of your favorites than one of mine. But yeah, it missed the mark on some parts for me. So hold on, I'm trying to pull up my list right now. I didn't have that ready. So yeah, I was gonna rank this a little lower, but I was like, oh man, this might be not good. But like I said, the last third when things were going, I was laughing. I was definitely laughing at the last part, so that definitely helped. I don't know if I probably won't ever see this with you unless somehow we're drunk and we're like, it's on. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And we're making fun of it. But I did put this one spot under Terrifier. I, it,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
it's above Wings, the 1927 film, and Tag. It was right there because again, I feel like
Love
it's
Tag.
right. I'm gonna remember. Yes, we won't. It's above Tag because I'm
The
not gonna remember
tag
this
rule.
movie as a whole, but there's gonna be certain scenes I'm just gonna remember and just laugh at. Like I said, the stuntman scene, that cutaway, I don't know why I laughed. The breaking that fourth wall was just funny to me.
It's absurd.
It is absurd, and some of it hit, and just some of it didn't for me.
Yeah.
But the absurdity, I think, went up to a higher level towards the end, and I think that's why I was just loving it a little bit more. Like I said, the whole orphans, joke was just hilarious to me. Um, I'm just trying to remember some of the other ones. Oh God, I just had to look real quick because I had to write this out. The Nixon nunchuck fight.
Oh my god, I know.
I was like, you know what? I did not know I needed Rich Nixon with nunchucks in my life, but here we are. So again, I
Yeah.
was again towards the end I was laughing at that, but yeah, it did pick up for me towards the end, which helped it a little bit. But overall, yeah, it's not my type of movie. These kind of spoof movies are hard. They have to hit it out of the park, and maybe it's just I'm not big into the style of film, so the spoof didn't happen. But sidetrack? Do you know they're making a new scary movie? Do you know
No, like they're
what
rebooting it.
they're well? Marlon Wayans is returning. The Wayans brothers, I think, are directing it. I don't know if they're calling it Scary Movie 7, but there's actually a
Oh.
new scary movie coming out. What's the Wayans
Well,
are doing?
Scream is kind of back. I mean, you have Scream 6 on your list,
I
and
do, and Scream 7 is already in the
that
works.
that
So
does make sense. So there is like a kind of audience for it, but yeah, I think with these parody movies, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're right. Like it's not going to hit everybody the same way. Like I'm sure there's people that hate Robin Hood Men in Tights,
that's true. I
and
love
pretty
that.
much don't like the Mel Brooks sense of humor at all. Like I don't know how your daughter feels about these movies, and maybe these movies will kind of disappear into the ether once the younger people come through. But it's nice to watch a movie that doesn't take itself seriously, um, and is not long. Like that's those are two huge things. Like we used to watch movies that were dumb, like Scary Movie, and even with um, the way the original Scary Movie was done was so brilliant, and
Yes.
it captured it parodied Scream so well. And it got really dumb. Obviously, towards the end of our blockbuster career, there was a bunch of these stupid ass parody movies, and you just couldn't tell what from what. But I'll continue to say it, and I'll continue to do this as long as we record stuff. I do miss that genre, and I do wish it would come back in a good way, if that makes sense.
No, 100% agree. And I know I mentioned to you on Tubi, I know you own it, but they brought back Loaded Weapon 1. And if anyone hears this, go fucking see
Oh
National
yeah,
Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1. I might
yes.
watch, I know we've already seen it, but I'm like, I kind of want to watch that again. It's been so long. But you're back to your point, you're right. Parody movies in itself, it's hard because you have to parody something that people might be a fan of or understand. Like you mentioned Mel Brooks, like not just Men in Tights, but Spaceballs. If you love the Star Wars, you're gonna probably laugh at Spaceballs more. Where if you hate Star Wars, who knows? But I don't know. Like I said, I mean, there's some I love. I do love Mel Brooks. This just didn't hit the mark. It's not the worst. I would say I definitely laughed at parts, and I'm gonna remember some parts. Poor man got the little D and just got shafted. He got killed, and I was like, okay, okay, this is what happens. You drink the liquor, you get little D. It is all over for you. This is the way it goes. So
Oh, fuck all liquor, man. That shit will fuck you
yeah,
up.
I did
Look,
like the vibe at
no,
first with the thing in like the '70s feel at first. I was like, okay, I was digging this, but I think it just for me some of the good jokes just it took towards the end. Um,
Mhm.
but like I said, I still laughed apart. It's not the worst thing I've seen. It's not even the worst spoof movie because, like you said, they had a ton that came out in the 2000s, which were shit. So
that were just money grabs and kind of because comedy and horror, those tend to be the money grabs. People watch those. Um, but yeah, no, Black Dynamite. I don't think I own it. Um, it's not one of my favorite movies, but it's one of the last movies I saw. I believe that I remember working at Blockbuster Video. I rented it at Blockbuster Video. And so yeah, but again, it came up at it came up on Tubi and I'd seen it and I was in a rush. But when the next time I see that Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon's available, that's gonna be my fucking Uno reverse
You
card to
play it.
throw
Like
in.
I said,
So
I will watch a lot of what people suggest if I get a chance. So you can suggest whatever movie. I'm like, all right, I will do it. As long as you don't stick me with the three,
well,
4 hour movie.
I'll tell you that Barry Gordy's Last Dragon is better than Black Dynamite. Barry Gordy's Last Dragon is a quintessential awesome '80s movie, and I don't give a fuck what anybody says. You'll see.
Yeah, I don't recall it. Sounds familiar, but I don't recall it. But
I think it
anyhow,
was played at the in the Chad household, like the movie I had to watch.
yeah, we're gonna get to that in a second. Um, and so when we decided to do this, I know we talked about this weeks ago about picking each other's movies. Your love of musicals, I instantly thought of this movie that I suggested for you,
My
and
love of musicals, you
and then I'm like, and then
said.
I wanted to rewatch it because the hard part was it wasn't free anywhere. It was on YouTube, and there's 2 versions, and I was like, because I didn't want you to watch it bad quality. I'm like, but I kind of want him to see this, partly because of a joke, but I kind of said this last week. It is a selfish reason for a reason to talk about this movie a little bit. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
the 1989 film Sing, not the animated one, but
Yeah.
an 80s film. And you're right.
Mhm.
This was something that me and my sisters watched a lot during a couple years. Like it was just always on. I don't know if HBO or something. It was just on, and we watched it a lot.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Because it was funny. My sister Tiffany, she a few years ago, she messaged me about this movie. She couldn't remember the name, and I'm like, "Oh, it's called Sing. It's on YouTube." And I kind of sent her the link. I actually go back to the finale song every now and then and just listen to it, just for nostalgic reasons.
Wow.
But yes, I wanted to watch the whole movie again. A, because it has been a while, and I wanted to refresh my mind. Because I knew a lot of the songs in this and some parts to it, but I'm like, let me at least get the whole experience again and kind of at least tell you, hey, this version, good audio, not maybe good video, the other way around. I'm like, pick your poison. But yes,
Yeah.
I wanted you to see this just because again your love of musicals. But like I said, it's an '80s movie. It's not like the typical musical. It's not like they're singing the dialogue. So I'm like, anyhow, but yeah. So I'm sorry. I know it's not your cup of tea, but I'm like it's '80s. Maybe the '80s cheese will win. But Soto, I'm gonna give the floor to you. What were your thoughts about the 1989 movie Sing, starring Lorraine Bracco before Goodfellas?
I mean, I fucking love Lorraine Bracco and before Sopranos, which I know her really closely of. Um, you know, I'll say this. I was expecting to go into this thinking that this was going to be a total piece of shit. I'm going to be 100% transparent with you.
Oh yeah, no, I kind of
Um,
figured you'd go into it like that.
I was like, oh fuck, what is he making me watch? And from the opening where it's like this freaking the hard ass guy is like secretly dancing by himself in the warehouse, and he's got this like artistic vibe to him that nobody understands. I was like, oh my god. I was like, from the opening credits, I'm like, I am gonna fucking not enjoy this experience. And I'm surprised I never saw this movie. It was never on for me. It was never on in my house. I've seen other things. Um, I think I saw Sister Act a lot more. And when it came to movies that were about music, I saw Footloose a lot more. Um, Fame was another movie that I saw.
Very popular movies and successful movies, yes.
Yeah, Dirty Dancing. These other things. This movie I had never seen in my whole entire fucking life. I never even knew it was a thing. And I actually, I'll go ahead and give you my opinion right up front. I actually didn't think this movie was bad at all. Uh, I'm not a fan of the music stuff, and some of the music stuff really kind of stood out as being really kind of like not my thing. Especially when there's a moment where Lorraine Bracco and the main character guy like are
Dominique.
dancing
Yeah.
together. Dominique are like dancing together in the warehouse before his brother comes in and fucking kicks his ass and shit like that. Um, I was surprised by how much heart that this movie had. I liked that it was set in Brooklyn. I felt that it was kind of authentic, especially for the time frame.
Well, to put this out there
It
before you
felt it.
continue, it's actually based not
Oh,
on a real story, but a real event. They actually yearly hold sing events at the Brooklyn school. So that part is actually very true for Brooklyn. They would do this. I don't know if they still do it, but yeah, seniors versus underclassmen. All the Brooklyn schools would do this. So this is actually based on a real competition. None of these characters
Mhm.
are true, obviously, but the competition was a Brooklyn thing. So I think that's why they went with it. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
I mean, it wasn't like, I mean, it was super predictable.
Yes.
That didn't make it bad. I think Lorraine Bracco did a lot of heavy lifting for why I liked this movie. Just because I like her as an actress, I always have. Um, One movie that I did watch with her a lot when I was younger was actually this movie called Medicine Man, where she starred with Sean Connery.
Connery,
I was a
good
big Sean
movie.
Connery fan when I was younger. But that was my first introduction to Lorraine Bracco back then. But I thought she was great in this movie, and I thought again the movie was had a lot of heart. It was super predictable, but the characters were believable. I mean, Dominique was super dumb. Like I have no problem with his character, but it was so obvious what arc he was going to go through. From going from this like tough guy that nobody understands and being a criminal to all of a sudden he starts to melt and he has a heart of gold and he really likes music and choreography and stuff. But and then his like passion for dance and shit, cheesy as fuck. But I didn't as cheesy as this fucking movie was, and it is. I didn't feel that it was inauthentic when I was watching it. I felt I was along for the ride. And I thought the music was fine. It wasn't memorable for me because I don't have nostalgia towards the songs like you do.
Yeah.
So the music was kind of just like whatever to me. But I actually found this to be an incredibly watchable movie for the time that it was. I did not hate the experience of watching this movie. I actually thought if I was a little kid and I was watching this, I probably would have liked it a lot more. I'm surprised it's not on any sort of DVD or the licensing that's going on. I guess it's been in DVD licensing hell for as long as it has been. But this is a perfectly fine fucking '80s movie from 1989.
Yeah.
I had no problem with this movie at all. Like I thought it was pretty damn good. Um, and if I had kids, I'd show them the movie, and at least if it was in good quality. I actually didn't think the YouTube quality was terrible. I know you mentioned some buzzing and stuff, but I thought it was fine.
It depends which version
I
you watch.
recognized.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched the DVD quality one. It was fine for me because it was good. I saw Cuba Gooding Jr.'s part. He showed up and he did his thing, whatever. But I thought Dominique was fine as a lead. I thought his girl was fine for a lead as well. There was some good story back and forth there. And again, this was pretty much an innocuous movie for me, and I think that it was a perfectly fine watch. And I know that you had done a pre-rank for it.
Yeah, I got it written down. I'm not going to tell you.
Uh,
I will be honest with
but
you, but I have it
yeah.
written down. Now, I don't know. It was just a guess, but I'm kind of curious. Let's do this.
Yeah, so this one is actually going to be ranked underneath Oppenheimer at 17 for me.
Oh, I was a few spots ahead. I went with
Yeah.
14. It was tough. I knew you were going to be in that middle, and the only reason I'm like,
Yes.
I didn't know if the 80s cheese was enough because this is a predictable movie. I'm not going to lie.
Very
Yeah,
predictable.
it follows the same tropes. You mentioned Footloose. There's a lot of Footloose stuff in it. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, a lot of these actors went on to other things. But yeah, so no, we're close. I mean, obviously, I was close. I was just a few off. I'm like, I was looking at Barbie. That's actually where I'm like, maybe he puts it over Barbie. I don't know, but I forgot Ryan Gosling wins.
I mean, Barbie was I could see Barbie, and it was the quality of Barbie and everything was fine. Yeah, Ryan Gosling, but I think that this is well above the Kung Fu Killer Peanut Butter Falcon, kind of stratosphere. I enjoyed it. I really did. I don't know if I'll ever see it again, especially on YouTube. I'm not sure. It's 80s cheese as fuck.
Yeah,
But I
100%.
didn't objectively speaking, I can't think that this is a movie that I would rate any lower than that. I think that's a good space for it. For never seeing it, for having zero nostalgia towards it or emotional value. I think that's kind of where it is. I can't put it below Kung Fu Killer. Kung Fu Killer was dumb. And I'll give Sing credit. It had some heart and I was surprised by it. So, that's where it's gonna land for me.
No, like I said, I mean, I know, like I said, it is more nostalgic for me, and I loved it. And like I said, I was surprised. You know, I mean, you are a few years younger, so that could have been. But I'm like, with
Mhm.
sisters, if they would have seen, you know, so it just could have been timing too. So, but it was like I said, for a couple of years, it was just on a lot, and we just watched it.
Yeah.
And like I said, every now and then I do go back to the finale, and I think the scene that if anything hits me, and again, it is very cheesy. It's after the final note and song, and Hannah, the main girl, she just you see that look in her face. Like the whole thing is like, is it over? You know, not, you know, like some of them are going to move on, some of them from Brooklyn, blah blah blah. And so when it hits her, like you just see it. So I do love it, but I'm glad you watched it. You know, I'm glad it's not in your bottom five.
Yeah.
Like I told you, it wasn't going to be in your top five, but it
No.
probably wouldn't be in your bottom five. So
No, no, I wouldn't. I can say with confidence, this is not, one of the worst movie. I don't think this movie is even. I can't even call this a bad movie. I don't think this movie's bad at all. I don't think it's one of my favorite movies, but it's not a bad movie. It's a movie. It does its job. It does its thing, and again, it had a lot of heart. I'll give it credit.
but Soto, before we go on, I just want to put this out there. That Sing is the 50th movie we have reviewed this year. So officially, we are a quarter of the way done. Just letting you know that. That was number
Oh my
50.
god! Wow, that was quite a Saturday morning for me to just turn on YouTube and just watch the movie Sing. As if it. What I did was I pretended like I was watching it on VHS, and you know what? When I had that mindset, it was perfectly
That
fine.
helped.
I've seen movies in VHS.
I'm sure it's out there in VHS. It's just, yeah, it bombed in theaters. And yeah, the DVD hell, you know. And there's pages like, hey, put it on DVD, but it just happens. Licensing, whatever, it just happens. So, but Soto,
Musical licensing,
yeah,
especially, yeah.
yeah. Well, let's move on. Now, you got to choose your second movie. So
I did.
let's talk about what was the second movie that you watched. Now that you had free choice, I didn't force you to watch a fun cheesy musical. What was the second movie you watched?
So I decided to watch, because I haven't watched many animated ones. So I decided to watch an anime, and this is one from one of my favorite directors in Japanese animation, and this is from Makoto Shinkai. This is actually the movie from 2022 called Suzume, and I'm going to read the back of the DVD style synopsis,
Ooh,
and then we're going to talk about it. Okay.
okay.
So, because I don't think I can do it justice by just explaining what happens, but I kind of want to set up, what it's about, and then we can go from there because I just kind of want to get your feeling when you hear this. So, 17-year-old Suzume is the main character. Her ordinary life is turned upside down when she meets a mysterious young man, very pretty young man, by the way, searching for doorways to disaster. So there's like all these doorways popping up across Japan, um, that connect to other worlds, and he closes these doorways because they're like connected to this underworld, and then this worm that secretly lives under Japan can come out and basically causes disasters, right? So as she's kind of following him and seeing what he's doing, she discovers these portals as well, and she realizes that if these portals are left open, that they basically cause like devastation. Um, Through a series of circumstances, this young man is transformed into a three-legged chair. And as a three-legged chair and as a high school girl, they have to journey across Japan to systematically kind of close these doors and to prevent further catastrophes. And then they're also dealing with Suzume's past and her ghost of the past, and then the losses that she's incurred. And it's done in an incredibly beautiful way. But I don't want it to be glossed over because I thought about this a lot and I went into this movie blind, but I was very surprised that the character was turned into a three-legged chair and that they go and the rest of the movie is like he's a chair. Now this chair is tied to like her mom. She gave her this chair, and it's tied to the an actual real life earthquake disaster that happened in Japan as well, and her mother passed away in it due to tsunamis and things like that. They lost like entire city, but you know, dealing with grief and trying to kind of reclaim that, and going through that, she basically ends up removing one of the keystones that keeps the worm like in place in Japan. And it turns to a cat, and they're just trying to chase that cat and trying to get it back so they can close this portal like permanently. But it's one of the most beautiful movies that I've ever seen. Animated, It's got a great soundtrack. I've always liked his movies. There's another movie that he has called Your Name, that is absolutely fucking amazing. There's 5 centimeters per second. Even his first one, which was a 30-minute movie called A Place Promised Our Early Days, um, I thought was a masterpiece. And then, it's because a lot of people talk about Studio Ghibli and Hayao Miyazaki and everything, but Makoto Shinkai is also an amazing director. And again, it's a movie about a girl and a three-legged chair chasing a cat trying to close portals throughout Japan so that a giant worm doesn't come out and destroy all of Japan. How's that land?
It's like a Persona game right there. Uh, Portals,
But it's
creature.
got a lot. When movies set rules, though, right? You believe in them
This is true.
as long as
Yes,
it's
yes. As
as
no
long as
matter
it's the
as
rules, right?
absurd as a story is, if they stay true to it, I'm okay with it. That's
Right,
basically
which
it.
is
Just
what
don't be like, hey, we're gonna do this. Why? I don't know. Just cause. But anyhow.
Yeah, and so that's why when the guy is turned into a three-legged chair, I'm like, I remember thinking to myself, I could never come up with this idea. I'd never in a million years come up with this idea. But it works because there's an emotional weight to the story that you're watching. And if you're watching something and if you believe in what you're watching, it doesn't fucking matter how absurd it gets so long as it stays within the promises that it made. And as long as it stays with the promises that made and it keeps the promises that like it keeps the promises like you like buy in. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And the way that it's animated is absolutely fantastic. I can't believe this movie was came out in 2022 because of just the level of animation, the colors and everything like that. It was absolutely fucking stunning to watch, and it's definitely one of the best anime movies I've seen in a long time. Um, and this one really got to me as well. And um, the ending probably I don't know if it hits for me as well. I probably have to rewatch it again. Um, a lot of kind of how you rank movies sometimes is kind of how you feel with the last few moments and stuff. And so the ending was fine, but it's kind of like But overall, when I think about the movies that I've seen this year and where Suzume ranks, it's actually ranked number 3 for me
Ooh.
of all the movies that I've seen this year. So this is my number 3 movie. When I first watched it and I was watching it, you watch movies and you're kind of like, where's this gonna rank? It kind of was like 1 for a while, but just as we've talked about this, you kind of let movies just simmer a little bit in your mind and you kind of let your mind work on things and kind of like settle into what it really is.
Yes.
But after settling and after thinking about it, um, with all the movies that I've seen this year, it's the third best movie that I've seen this year, 100%.
Damn. It's also the
Yeah.
25th movie you've seen this year. So you're
Nice.
getting
Yeah.
that's a
So yeah,
quarter.
yeah. Suzume is number 3 for me, and I don't think that's gonna change. We're not gonna have a hell or high water situation. I think a hell or high water, I was kind of like in that infatuated stage when you fall in love, and then you kind of realize that maybe it's not all that. And I'm not saying Hell or High Water is a bad movie. It's pretty good, but Suzume is it's one of the most beautiful movie experiences I've seen in my life from like a purely artistic and color standpoint and everything. It is like a masterpiece. Does it hit all the notes it needs to hit from a story framework for me to like get there? You know, no, but incredibly enjoyable nonetheless.
Well, damn. New number 3. Top 5. It's always good. Yeah, when I was looking at the pictures to get for thumbnails, I actually thought the animation, just the pictures, was kind of cool. So
hmm Yeah, no, I'm sorry I spoiled the chair thing, but I felt like
no,
I
it's
had to
okay.
because when it happened, when I was watching it and it happened, I just looked over at Sarah and I was like, "What the fuck?" I had in no way did I ever picture that it was going to go in that direction. And I've seen movies, you've seen movies, we kind of have that vibe where it's like you kind of already have like you just have that internal Rolodex of where things could go when you watch a new movie, just based on the thousands of movies we watched.
Yeah.
Um, and never in my threads of watching movies that I think this guy's going to turn into the chair. And it added such a twist to it that I was just like, this is one of the most original things I've ever seen. And But again, if it's done with heart and emotion, I can buy into it really easily. It doesn't fucking matter. Just get me to emotionally buy in, and I'm there with you.
That's all you need. Speaking about emotions, I don't know. Let's change the dude here, and let me tell you about my second and final movie that I watched this week, which you kind of already know. We've been on a little of a wrestling kick, kind of watching old school
A
wrestling.
little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit.
You actually
Yeah.
were able to watch kind of a wrestling movie in the Peanut Butter Falcon earlier this year. And there's a movie that came out
Yeah.
in 2019. When we started doing this, I'm like, I kind of want to check this out. And unfortunately, it wasn't free. This was even weeks ago. And then close to every first, I get like a little update, like, hey, this is coming to Tubi. This is coming to Peak. Like basically what's new.
Me too. Yep.
And I was like, oh, ooh. And I saw this movie from 2019, Fighting with My Family. Now, Soto, before I even get into the movie, I'm going to have to explain a little bit because you stopped watching wrestling. This is kind of a loosely based on a female wrestler named Paige, who in the WWE during the time you didn't watch.
hmm
I can't think of
25
these.
years. 25 years.
And if you
25
know,
years. From 2000 on, basically, I stopped watching.
yeah, I can't. I think this is around. She kind of debuted on Raw. She was in NXT first, but she debuted on Raw. I want to say 2014, and
Mhm.
had a great debut. Anyhow, but it's basically her life story. I knew a little of her life story beforehand. I've said this in the last
Name is
book.
Paige. That's her name,
She was Paige
Paige.
in the WWE. Her real name's Saraya, and that's the name she goes by now in AEW. If she's still there, I don't know if she is or not. She had a neck injury, so she actually had to retire for a little while and it's come back. But yeah, her WWE name was Paige. But basically, I kind of said this. She was almost one of the two, but the main pioneer of where women's wrestling has now is like the revolution as they
Mhm.
call it, and
Well, because it's huge now.
it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, that's my biggest surprise coming back into wrestling in this phrase right now. Because it's like I skipped 25 years into the future, and I'm so amazed by how prevalent the women's wrestling is because it used to be a fucking joke.
Yeah. And
So, at least before I stopped watching wrestling, it was a fucking joke. And so it's interesting.
so even so when you stopped around the Attitude Era, it kind of morphed into a Divas Championship, where there are some skillful ones, but nothing overly entertainment. And yeah, she came onto the scene, and I think you would have been a fan of her since you're kind of a fan of Rhea Ripley. She walks so Rhea could run, basically.
Kind
But
of. I'm a big fan of Rhea Ripley.
I
It's my
yeah.
muscle memory right there.
Well, anyhow, but yeah, so she changed it from she started the thing from it becoming divas to actually wrestling. She wasn't overly muscular. She was definitely smaller, but that helped her in the babyface role, the overcoming. But she had skills because basically this movie, which based on her true story, which I knew, it documents her life. She came from kind of a wrestling family, and because her dad would put on shows with her and her brothers fighting, wrestling, excuse me, and she was doing it since she was like 13. Like she was on like independent shows. So she even before she came to WWE, she had like an 8-year career, which is crazy to think about. But while they're doing shows, her and her brother were kind of doing like a training session for all the local kids, just a way to keep them going, but at the same time help people stay out of trouble. They even taught a blind kid to wrestle, who I learned afterwards took some gigs, was actually doing wrestling matches afterwards. So like she is talented. But yeah,
Right?
so the
Wow.
story goes, Nick Frost is her dad, and is kind of he keeps
Okay.
sending the tapes to WWE, like, hey, check out my daughter and son. They're going to England, and they invite Paige and her brother, Zack Attack, to try out. And they're like, hey, open tryouts, whatever happens, happens, but we'll see what you got. And they both try out, and amongst other people, and Paige is the only one taken. Her brother does not get
Mm.
in. So I like this because it doesn't focus a lot on what happens in WWE. It very glosses over NXT, which if you know her, you're like, she became NXT champion. They kind of forget that, but I get it. They're trying to do more of the story, but it's also how she's going to WWE on her own, because she doesn't have her family, but it's also the downfall of her brother because it's his dream, and his dream just got smashed. And
Mm.
his little
Wow.
sister, is now living his dream. So there's a lot of that turmoil. Obviously, because we know the ending, it kind of all works out. This movie also has Vince Vaughn kind of as the trainer, which was I was like, I don't know if
Wow,
this
it's
works out, but
on.
it was good. He was not over the top, and yeah, so I like Vince Vaughn in this because it was a very simplistic role. It had The Rock as The Rock. He was kind of playing himself, which I felt was weird because he wasn't in the WWE in that time, but he was part of the producers of this, so I think they put him in this for star power. But he did feel a little out of place. I get it; he was just there because, like, oh, there's The Rock, but it did not help the story that much. They embellished a few things, and you could tell. But yeah, I mean, anyone that was a fan of Paige, this is a great way to see her backstory. And I just, even if you don't know, this is just a fucking good wrestling movie. I think you would enjoy the shit out of this, not knowing anything about her. Um, but yeah, Stephen Merchant directed this, which I found hilarious too. I was like, really? Um,
Wow.
but but yeah, so yeah, she gets NXT, and at that time, like you said, it's all models. Blonde, tall, blonde, but kind of a little bit different, and she's kind of the outcast, and I think that's why she kind of the fans loved her in NXT because she just had a different look. She wasn't your typical, you know. 6'2" blonde, she even says to them like you're all just tits and ass, but she realizes they're there for their dream too, so there's that understanding.
Mhm.
And yeah, so and then it basically ends with whatever, if you follow wrestling, her debut on Raw. Because that was kind of the big moment
Mm.
for her, which they changed a lot. They made it more movie. Because I actually went back to watch this. I'm like, I don't think that's how that happened. Some of the things. So I watched. I'm like, oh no, it didn't happen. They just changed it for movie reasons. But that's okay. If you're watching this for a movie, it's still a good feel good story. But yeah, no, it's basically
Mm.
her journey, but also what her family went through, especially her brother, because like I said, he kind of went to a dark place. I feel they should have shown more of that. Like they did show a lot of the family, but I felt like they could have gone a little bit more with that brother, because they
Mm.
did show a little. But I
Backstory.
feel like they're because they both had an older brother who was in jail, who also had this dream, but he was like in jail for like a few years too, and he kind of came out towards the end. But yeah, no, this is just it's a good wrestling movie. But anyone that wants to learn about Paige, it's based on a documentary. They actually did a documentary about her life, um, back in like I think 2012 it says. So I might want to see if I can watch that. I see what the a little bit more of the realistic version is. But this is a good film. If you love wrestling, not even if you didn't know nothing about Paige or nothing about this story, it's just a good story because it's the
Mm.
good underdog story. But it's also she's the misfit, and I think that's why a lot of fans. She was just something different in this world of the typical. Hey, this is what attitude wrestling is. This is what now the new this is what divas is. No talent. Hey, they're all just trying to get the next step. They all want to be actresses. They all want to be models. They don't want to be wrestlers. She wanted to be a wrestler, and I think that's what changed.
Right.
So when they added like Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks all in one day, like you just saw like the talent was coming, and yeah,
Hmm.
someone had to start it, and she did. Her and AJ Lee, AJ Lee was a part of it. Two smaller women, but it was still a fucking good movie. So like I said, if you get a chance, I think just as a wrestling fan, you would just like it. Definitely a hell of a lot better than Peanut Butter Falcon, in my opinion. I didn't see it, but from what you told me, I would think this is a
I
lot
mean, Peter
better.
Pan Falcon, again, it was okay until it wasn't okay. I don't think Peter Pan Falcon's a bad movie, but this sounds a little bit more put together. Peter
It
Pan
is.
Falcon is more just it's a Shia LaBeouf kind of vehicle a little bit, but it just gets into this really sort of very kind of um uh sort of idealistic kind of way. It just didn't do it for me. Jake the Snake was in it though.
Yeah, there wasn't outside The Rock. I don't think there's too many other wrestlers that were actual wrestlers that were in this, which is fine. It wasn't meant to be that. Um, but yeah, like I said, they very glossed over the NXT matches because the one thing they don't bring up was she was NXT champion when she debuted on Raw, and that was the big thing. And so they kind of skipped that part. Like, so if you know that, you know what a big moment that was. In this, they kind of changed the feel, or it was more this, hey, she's going to get a shot kind of thing. Let's see how she does. By then, she was established. Like, she knew how to handle herself in the ring, but just with the crowd and stuff like that. So they played it up. They
Like, what
definitely
is NXT?
NXT is like the developmental.
NXT.
That's what the
Okay,
considered.
it's like the
So
minor league
yeah,
for.
so they do
Okay.
that. So they can work on characters. Sometimes even Rhea Ripley had to change a look and change the characters before she found her footing, what she is. So it's a way they can mess things around, but it's like it's basically the minor leagues. Sometimes some people on Raw and SmackDown, if they're not doing anything, they'll go down to NXT to maybe try out a few things, but also work with the younger talent. So yeah, it's basically developmental. It's a new Triple H was running it. Now Shawn Michaels is running NXT because Triple H is running basically everything else. So
Ooh,
yeah.
and where does Joe Hendry come from? Where's
Oh,
he in?
that's TNA. That's a
Okay,
different
all right, we'll get into that.
organization. They just
Different
have a
podcast.
working
Okay.
relationship with
But he
TNA.
showed up in fucking the Royal Rumble
Yeah,
though.
because basically, yeah,
All
working
right, we'll get
now TNA champions. But anyhow, yeah, so it's just they have a working
anyhow. Yeah,
relationship. You missed out on TNA a little bit. I didn't really get into it. They
I
invented the six
certainly did.
sided ring and then went to four sided, but it was just something
It
different.
looks
But
stupid, but I
it
saw it.
was,
Yeah.
but it gave them an identity. But anyhow, yeah, fighting with your family, definitely a great movie because though they focus a little bit on the training and what it takes to become a wrestler, they didn't go too over involved. It was more just a personal story of Paige. And I did like that. I do feel they could have showed a little more with the brother because he was having his girlfriend was pregnant, so he was dealing with a lot. So he thought when he got the WWE shot, this is his big shot. He thought he was going to be the one because he loved it. But yeah, he went through a
Mhm.
lot, and it was good. Again, all worked out. Even in real life, they kind of said what they're all doing now. So, but where I rank this, it was good. I would actually watch this again. I do want to see the documentary. I'm putting this at number 6. It's going to be right underneath Clerks 3, but right above Air. That's kind of right
Oh,
where I rank it. Because I enjoyed it. This was just a very enjoyable. Even
top
if I
10.
knew nothing of Paige, I enjoy. I would say
Mhm.
this is actually a really good film. It did help that I knew a little of her career, and where she came from. But
Mhm.
outside of that, yeah, they did it great. I think The Rock was just out of place, but it's The Rock. He does his catchphrases. He's The Rock. You just love him. You're like, all right, it's okay. Do what you got to do. But he was not around
Wow.
WWE at that time. He was doing movies and shit. So it just felt like you don't really belong here, but you know what? You're The Rock. You can do what you want. But it was made by WWE Studio, so obviously, yeah, they were gonna put money into it, and he was gonna do it. So, but yeah, anyone that's listening, if you're a wrestling fan, see this. See this. If you want a good wrestling movie, it's fucking good. So
I'm intrigued.
it is. Like I said, check it out, and if you got a chance. But so I think that'll end it for us this week. We got quarter one. 12 weeks, 52 movies
Mhm.
officially. So we're good on pace. Do you have?
Solid, solid fucking week, man.
Yep, 4. That's usually where
I
we
think
need to
so.
be. You have.
Solid fucking week.
I know your weekend's going to be packed. Do you think you're going to be able to watch anything for next week? Do you have any ideas yet?
Yeah, yeah, I do. Right now I got very light watch. But Terrence Malick's Tree of Life starring Brad Pitt has just come on to HBO. I also get these little emails of what's new on these streaming services. So um, we're not leaving for Salem until much later in the afternoon on Saturday. And Sarah has to work in the daytime, so I'm gonna have the morning to myself. And so I'll probably spend it watching a 3-hour movie. And I did see Paddington 2, I think on Tubi as well. So yeah, I have about 4 days off, 4 or 5 days off.
That's right.
So I'll be back by Sunday, and yeah, I definitely think I might go 2, and if I'm feeling kind of cheeky, I might go 3. Because Tuesday I'll have like the whole day, and I'm just waiting for on Tuesday. I'm just waiting for people to come by our apartment. So I'm just gonna be in wait mode, and you know what you do when you wait? You just watch a movie.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm watching. I will say Mel's been trying to get a couple movie ideas she wanted me to see. Like there's a Josh Hartnett movie called
Ooh.
Fight or Flight. There's a couple others. I'm like, all right, listen, I'll try and watch one of them. But I did see that Paddington 2 was on Tubi. It popped up and I laughed. I'm like,
Yeah.
is it gonna happen? But I don't know where I'm going. A lot of times I just put it on a service and like what jumps out at me, what jumps out. So we'll see. We'll see. I have nothing planned. But that will do it for the 200 movie challenge, episode 12. 4 movies, 4
Woo!
definitely different movies. Not the worst, not the worst. We got a little
No.
musical in there for you. We got a good cheesy 80s one.
Uh, There was so much music in that. That's about as much music as I could take in a movie. It was stuff like that.
I just felt like it was okay though. Like I said, I didn't think it was just
It
they're singing
was
the
just
dialogue and they're
enough.
just like "Mama Me" in
Yeah.
it. So yeah, it was mostly
I
towards.
can't I can't do the music stuff. I'm
Take a
sorry.
break.
It's
It's
not my
okay. You
I
don't
do
need
like to
to.
say cup of tea. Not my cup of tea.
It's all right. But now everyone just have a good one and just go out and watch some good movies.
Is it play bitch?